thing we have to fear is
in war, there is no substitute for victory.
Let us never negotiate out of fear.
We stand undivided, forever united, fighting hand in hand for the liberty we've earned, for glory and honor, for our sons and daughters, ever mindful of the lessons we've learned. Let the torch of freedom burn.
You found your way to the intersection of faith and politics. This is WallBuilders Live with David Barton and Rick Green. Thanks for joining us today. Visit us online at wallbuilders.com or wallbuilderslive.com. Our guest today, our good friend Brad Stine, God's comic, amazing comedian, but also loves our country and uses that comedy to actually hit people where it hurts, man, make them realize how important it is to defend our nation. Also a well-known actor and has a new movie coming out called Persecuted. He's a co-producer and one of the co-stars of the movie. It's going to have a huge impact on defending the First Amendment. Brad Stine, always a pleasure to have you, sir. Thanks for coming on.
Well, there's nowhere else I would rather be. If I'm with you, if I'm with Rick Green and WallBuilders, I know that somewhere, somehow, somebody is getting more liberties restored. And that's all I care about, my brother, that those First Amendment rights stay strong while the getting's good.
Amen, brother, and you're doing a great job of defending them. This is a much-anticipated movie. People have been talking about it for months. Very excited about a summer opening for you guys.
Yep.
It's actually this weekend, going to open tomorrow, right?
It is opening tomorrow night, July 18th, Persecuted, and for every patriot, for every conservative, for every Christian, for every believer in liberties and justice for all, if you want to vote with your wallet and show the whomever it is that you believe is restricting the liberties of free, patriotic Americans who believe in the original intent of the Founding Fathers and the limited federal government, if that's who you are, guess what? You got a lot of enemies. The media no longer is true media. They're simply propaganda. We don't longer have anybody that's going to watch over for your values from a progressive standpoint, because progress to a progressive means never honoring the sacred, never honoring the old, never honoring the ancient wisdom, always changing, always moving fluid, so that eventually they can control you and make you a slave to their little elite club that makes all the money, gets all that they need, but just make sure that you pay for it. And that's what this movie is dealing with. It's about a nationally known pastor who the government comes to and says, I need you to support this bill called the Faith and Fairness Act, where all the religions are the same and we're all just getting along. And this guy says, I'm not going to compromise the gospel for some political agenda. And they end up trying to set him up with some false charges and basically try to destroy his life. Now, can you imagine a fictional account of a federal government trying to use some kind of, I don't know, IRS or NSA or something to literally destroy an American citizen's freedom so they can get their political agenda in place? Well, this is fictional, but as I said, it's a political thriller like a Tom Clancy novel, but it's dealing with real issues in America. So if you show up on the first weekend and put $10 down and bring your friends and your family, you're going to get a political thriller, a suspense thriller, but you're also going to stand for liberties of those who decide that they are not going to have the government rule them, that the state is not who they worship God. And that's what this movie is about. It's a one-of-a-kind faith film, and we could use all your support, because that first weekend tells not only if it's a hit and that people want more things like this, but it also allows them to say, perhaps we need to open up more theaters next weekend, because this thing is something that people like. So I'm really looking forward to WallBuilders listeners, because I know they are true patriots. I need your help. Go out July 18th and 19th and see Persecuted, and bring your entire family and all of your church. And if you don't have a church or a family, get one. Get a church and a family.
By tonight,
bring them out July 18th.
Yeah. You get them by tomorrow night, and then take them out to see the movie. Persecuted. Persecutedmovie.com is the website, and it's got to listen to theaters. Y'all actually have a pretty big opening. Y'all are going to be all across the country.
We are. We're actually having a premiere in Oklahoma. We had a premiere Monday. We had a premiere in Los Angeles that was overflowed. So that's exciting, being in L.A. and having a premiere sold out that has this point of view. And tomorrow night, where it opens nationwide in 650 theaters, I'm going to be at a red carpet premiere in New York City, where this conservative values and this liberty and First Amendment rights being disseminated through an amazing movie is actually going to be appearing here in New York City, which is not necessarily always sympathetic to people of our point of view, as you well know. So it's an exciting time to go into enemy territory and knock down the gates for true First Amendment freedoms and religious liberties, which obviously are the first line of the First Amendment and what the Founding Fathers considered the single most sacred element of the rights of a free person, their conscience. And that's what we're fighting for with Persecuted tomorrow night.
Brad Stine is our guest. Stay with us. Going to take a quick break. The website is persecutedmovie.com. You can get a list of those 600 theaters there on the website. Just type in your zip code. They'll tell you what's close to you. This weekend is opening weekend. Important time to go see it. And we'll be back in a moment to talk a little bit more about the premise of the movie. And is this just fiction, or could this be happening in America right now? Stay with us here on WallBuilders Live.
This is David Barton with another moment from America's history. Federal courts have made several amazing rulings recently, ordering the removal of a cross from a cemetery, banning religious holiday displays, removing the Ten Commandments from public view, prohibiting student prayers whether verbal or silent, and numerous other similar restrictive rulings. As one current justice has noted, the Supreme Court has now become, quote, a national board of theology. Our founding fathers would be astounded. They designed the First Amendment to keep the federal courts completely out of this issue. As Thomas Jefferson forcefully declared, I consider the federal government as prohibited by the Constitution from meddling with religious exercises. The First Amendment was designed to keep decisions on religious expression out of the federal courts and in the hands of the local communities.
For more information on God's hand in American history, contact WallBuilders at 1-800-8REBUILD.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back to WallBuilders Live. Thanks for staying with us. Brad Stine is with us, co-star and co-producer of a new movie coming out this weekend called Persecuted. There's been a lot of talk. In fact, I think, Brad, you guys have like 500,000 people on Facebook already following this, paying attention to it, been looking forward to it coming out. The premise you mentioned in our opening segment, the idea of the government using its power to try to persuade a pastor to actually compromise the gospel for their political agenda. A lot of people might say, that's just far-fetched, that never happened here. But aren't we watching that type of thing happen all the time in smaller ways? I mean, we see pastors get arrested for reading the Bible or praying on the sidewalk, shutting down Bible studies in their own homes just because they're practicing religion and the government wants to tell them how to do it. I mean, little by little, I believe Kelly Shackelford's group and at Liberty Institute documented over 1,000 instances of hostility towards religion. So is this really far-fetched, or is this something that could be happening even now?
Well, not only is it not far-fetched, but as you said, it really is, unfortunately, a reality that, frankly, I think we are stunned to see, because if there was anything that we believed America stood for, it was religious liberties. It was founded by people leaving Europe who said, I don't want the King of England to tell me how I have to worship or what brand of faith I have to adhere to. And so they left their entire fortunes and their home town, their home country, and brought their families. That's how important religious liberties were to these people. I mean, can you even see people in America thinking of their religion as that much more important than anything else they could endure? And then the Founding Fathers, which I don't have to tell you because you're the expert, decided that we will even cut off from our home country as well, because we don't want to be enslaved or have them tell us how we have to live our lives, because we are free men, free British citizens, and that we have the right to own property and to make our own way, and nobody gets to decide for us how we can think or live or believe. And so we see this. I mean, this is what was so amazing to me. We had a wonderful breakthrough recently with Hobby Lobby, and that they did say that you can be a Christian and you can own your own business and you can base your business on principles that are your religious beliefs. Now that's the good news. They said yes, that makes sense. But there's bad news. There's another side to that coin, as you know, another side to that sword. Number one, they weren't basing this on First Amendment. They're basing it on the law that was passed, in 1994. So that's the first problem. It should have been based on the First Amendment, and that should have been that. And secondly, 4 of the Supreme Court judges disagreed. So we have 4 Supreme Court judges who tell us the state trumps your religious freedoms. Now, that is beyond frightening, because it tells you, as you said earlier, that how much less liberty is now being available to you. And let me tell you something. I'm tired of Christians wringing their hands about, oh, poor us, and then thinking if they don't do anything, somehow it'll all get better, and stick their heads right back in the sand and continue to have the freedom to go to their church and think everything's fine. It isn't fine. It's not fine at all. And it is time for us for the second Revolutionary War. This time not with muskets, this time with an absolute mobilizing of every person that believes in liberty, from every religious person, certainly every Christian, every conservative, every American, and if that means you're an atheist that believes in liberty, you should be joining us. If you're a homosexual activist, you should still want liberties for everybody if you truly care about America's freedoms. That's how important this is. This should be about how America views liberty. And this film, even though, like you said, it's fiction, but it's based on reality. It's based on the fact that if a political machine decides we're just simply going to get rid of American citizen, whether it's wipe them out through some false charges or murder them. I mean, obviously, governments have been murdering citizens for thousands of years.
Yeah.
It can happen. And we have to be vigilant in not only seeing these things, but rising up in force, in mass, in reality, showing up in hundreds and thousands of people saying, no more pushing around, no more pushing my rights underward, no more diminishing religious freedoms. They're more important than any behavioral choice that could ever come about. If you care about freedom, if you care about liberty, then my conscience and what I think is true about life always trumps your choice to what you get to do behaviorally. That is what America was. And let's be a hard American. To live like that is a disciplined American, and we ain't that way. We are uneducated. We are fools. We aren't even educated in the basics and reason and logic. We are self-censoring ourselves simply because if I say, I don't know, marriage is between a man and a woman, I believe that because for 7,000 years humans have always been that way. And they say you're hateful, and you say, oh, am I? I'm sorry. Let me back off. What do you mean hateful? That's not a true statement. I don't hate anybody.
Right.
I believe in a particular standard of behavior. And would somebody call me hateful if I went to an alcoholic and says, stop drinking? Well, I love to drink. It makes me feel good. I'm in a better place this way. Hey, it's my decision. Who are you to tell me? And you would say that's hateful? You would say the true love is the fact that I would say, I know you want this, but I know it's not good for you, and I'm willing to face your wrath to love you enough for you to hate me so I can tell you this isn't going to bode well for your life. That's what we're trying to do in America. We're trying to stand up against those who hate us simply because we say there is a way that God has dictated. And I screw it up too. I'm not saying I'm better. I'm just saying just because I'm not good at this doesn't forbid me from speaking the truth about it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, it sounds like what you're really talking about is defending the right to simply speak truth, even if you've messed up and made mistakes, regardless of our own shortcomings, that there's still a truth, and it's just a matter of being able to speak it or to speak the opposite. I mean, you might disagree with me on the issue, but I don't want to use the force of government to shut down that speech.
That's exactly right. And like I said, if you really use logic, Rick, nobody goes to Alcoholics Anonymous and says, how dare you tell these people to stop drinking? You are an alcoholic. Nobody says that.
Right.
They say you're the most qualified to tell them that. Well, let me tell you something, Rick. I'm a sinner. I'm very qualified.
We're qualified on that front.
I'm qualified to say there is another way, there is a better way, and I'll walk with you, and I'll pick you up if you fall, if you promise to pick me up. See, I've said this before, and it kind of raises eyebrows once in a while amongst my Christian people because, again, they're so quick to judge without hearing the context. But I've said this in churches. I said, I want a man in America to have the right and the freedom to stand up and say, I want to marry a man. I want him to have the right to say, I want to marry a man. You know why I want him to have that right? Because I want the right to disagree.
So you're not saying He would have the. You're not saying I want him to have the right to marry a man. You want him to have the right to say why he wants to marry a man, and then you have the right to say why.
Listen, do I agree with that premise? No. But if I can censor him from even saying, here's what I want, then how can I forbid him from censoring me if I say, here's what I don't think is right?
Yeah.
This is what you listen. Again, WallBuilders is such a great radio program and such a great ministry for the body of Christ because, you guys are dealing with these issues on a regular basis. You're dealing with the Constitution. You're dealing with the laws. You're not necessarily just making some theological claim, but you're dealing with practical claims of human beings in a free democratic republic who, let's face it, are not all Christians. And they need their rights, too, because that's what Christianity is great about. It gives rights and freedoms to people that despise Christianity. It's unlike anything that's ever existed. And Persecuted, this movie that's coming out tomorrow night, deals with that issue. This pastor did nothing wrong. He's being set up. He's trying to find the truth, and he's being hunted down by a CIA hitman to shut him up. Because this goes all the way to the top of the government, and he's trying to prove I didn't do this, and that's what's exciting about this. He is hanging on by a thread, Rick, and yet he still says, "I'm going to serve you, God." But boy, things seem dark, and where are you? But I'm still hanging in there. So there's some inspiration about when you go through difficulties with God. Hang on, He's still there. And
this is not a documentary. This is a drama. This is a powerfully done movie. Quick break. We come back. Let's talk about that. The quality of the movie, some of the folks that are in it, and the entertainment value. It's a cause-oriented movie, but it's also extremely entertaining. Stay with us. Brad Stine is our guest, co-star and co-producer of a new movie coming out tomorrow night. This is the weekend to go see it. It's called Persecuted. The website to find out where it's being shown is persecutedmovie.com. Back in a moment here on WallBuilders Live. Have you ever wanted to learn more about the United States Constitution but just felt like, man, the classes are boring, or it's just that old language from 200 years ago, or I don't know where to start? People want to know, but it gets frustrating because you don't know where to look for truth about the Constitution either. Well, we've got a special program for you available now called Constitution Alive with David Barton and Rick Green, and it's actually a teaching done on the Constitution at Independence Hall in the very room where the Constitution was framed. We take you both to Philadelphia, the Cradle of Liberty and Independence Hall, and to the WallBuilders Library, where David Barton brings the history to life to teach the original intent of our founding fathers. We call it the Quick Start Guide to the Constitution because in just a few hours through these videos, you will learn the Citizen's Guide to America's Constitution. You'll learn what you need to do to help save our constitutional republic. It's fun, it's entertaining, and it's going to inspire you to do your part to preserve freedom for future generations. It's called Constitution Alive with David Barton and Rick Green. You can find out more information on our website now at wallbuilders.com.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us here on WallBuilders Live. Brad Stine is with us talking about the movie coming out tomorrow night, July 18th, called Persecuted. Brad's a co-star in it and co-producer, and it's, we were saying before the break, Brad, it's not just about the issue of free speech and freedom of conscience and these constitutional issues. It's actually a drama that shows what happens when you take away those rights and you allow the government to step on those. This is you've been around the movie industry a long time and entertainment. Quality of the entertainment here was very important to you.
Well, it was. I co-produced this as well. And let me tell you something. There's 2 Academy Award-nominated actors in this film. Dean Stockwell, who people might remember from the years of being in film and television. He was nominated for Academy Award in Married to the Mob, but he also was in the television series Quantum Leaps, if you remember him. So he's very well-known and respected. Then there's Bruce Davison, who was in the original X-Men film, and he was in The Crucible with Daniel Day-Lewis and numerous other films, and he was nominated as well. And then we have Gretchen Carlson doing a cameo from Fox. We have Fred Thompson, who was a senator, ran for president for real. He's in it. Everybody knows him from L.A. Law and the numerous television that he's been in, as well as Hunt for Red October, I believe. We also have Raul Trujillo, who plays the sort of the hitman who was the chief, if you remember the Apocalypto, the Mel Gibson film about the Aztecs. So he's an amazing actor. And James Remar plays the lead, who was in the Showtime series Dexter, Django Unchained, numerous films he's in. And Natalie Grant, a Christian singer, has a part in it. Jordan Sekulow has a small part, whose father Jay started the ACLJ. So it's an all-star cast. And the truth of the matter is, this has been a watershed moment for faith films this year. We've had Heaven's for Real, we've had Son of God, we've had God's Not Dead, and other films that they're trying to bring out now. This is the year of the faith film where it's legit and it is a moneymaker. But here's the thing, and here's what I speak to my fellow Christians. Those are great movies, and God bless them for speaking the gospel. But let's just be honest if we can. They're movies about God who are directed towards people who already believe in him. They're basically just going to see a movie that already sort of dignifies what already they believe in. Now, maybe somebody goes that isn't a believer, but for the most part, Christians go to see Christian films. This film is a hybrid. This film is a action suspense. It's PG-13. It doesn't have any language, but it's got some violence. It's got dark subject matter because of what's happening in this situation. We wanted to make great craft. If Christians want to affect culture, they have to be more sophisticated in the realization that you are not influencing people by your church necessarily. You might be helping people, but your pastor is not necessarily changing the culture. He is trying to uphold your belief system so you can go out and help your neighbors. The politicians, we all know they're all power hungry. They're all sellouts. They have the least approval rating in history in Congress, and as well as the Senate and of course the president. So we don't have a good track record going on there as far as leading the next generation of Americans. But you know what does lead them? You know what does change them? Television and motion pictures. When Joe Biden, the Vice President of the United States of America, said, "I changed my views on gay marriage based on will and grace." So the Vice President gets his social, moral compass from sitcoms. That's how bad it has become in America. But since we now see,
it's bad, but what do we do about it? How do we use that tool for good?
Exactly. So we can't ignore it. That's where people go to. And the Daily Show with Jon Stewart and places where people go for news now. Okay, that's what you want? You want entertainment to try to educate you? That's the direction you're going to go? Okay, we can curse the darkness or we can light a candle. All right, then we're going to put our movies into a slot that would have been taken up by a film that degrades America or lifts up promiscuity or drug abuse or whatnot. We're going to take a slot out of that by sticking our film in there and talking about God and character and country and standing up for the rights and truth, even if you stand alone. And this is what Christians have to understand. You have a vote. Well, you have a vote. When Phil Robertson simply spoke from the biblical commandment of homosexuality, he was taken out of Cracker Barrels, and I know how much the Green family loves Cracker Barrel. Right. And guess what? Within 24 hours, they were back in. Why was that? Because the constituency of patriots and conservatives and Christians stood up, and they obviously are significant. If within a 24-hour period they can change entire corporate structure's decision.
But they had to speak to do that. They had to stand up and take action.
Dinesh D'Souza lost his book out of Costco, 2 days later after we revealed it on television. It's back in. When they spoke about even Chick-fil-A about, believing in traditional marriage, and he was lambasted. We went out and bought a chicken sandwich, and it was the biggest restaurant return of funds in the history of America. We have proven that we have the numbers, we have the revenue, we have the power. We just have never had the movement, the understanding of being ecumenical, that in this day and age in America, we desperately need each other to mobilize and spend our money where our mouth is. Now, I know it sounds self-serving. I'm in this movie. Why wouldn't I want people to go see this movie? And is this movie going to change the United States of America? No. It's not going to change it by one film. What it is going to do is allow the narrative of America to be seen from another perspective. When you look at normal news, you get one less progressive slant as to how America is and what is believed. And we have to fight to get a radio show or to get one television channel that gives us a conservative viewpoint. And yet when we do, we dominate. We dominate.
Hey, Brad, let me ask you, we only got about a minute left. What has the response been like for you guys in trying to get this movie out once you got it produced, get it into the theaters, all that? I mean, what kind of opposition have you faced?
Well, you know what? The biggest opposition has come from those who've heard about it and never seen it. If you go to our Facebook page or persecutedmovie.com, where you can find out where the movie's playing, you see all these people who've left messages. You Christians are the persecutors. You know, it's ironic that they continue to persecute us by saying that there's no persecution on Christians. But you know what? When the Regal Cinema's head, who buys them all in, saw this film, he said, "This is more than a faith-based movie. This is a great movie." I'm just saying to you that as a Christian man, we try to make the best product and the best art we could. We are representing Jesus Christ. We are representing our country's founding fathers' intent, our First Amendment rights. And if you want to have a great time, be suspensed, be thrilled, be excited at a PG-13 movie, this isn't for the children, but you can bring your teenagers and everybody. Come see it, spend money, mobilize, make it impossible for people to get into this theater because the lines are so long, and they won't be able to ignore us. We will little by little chip away at the narrative and show that this point of view is God ordained, God has anointed it, and it will triumph if good people do something.
It's called Persecuted. It opens tomorrow night. This is the weekend to go see it. For more information, persecutedmovie.com. You can see the trailers there. You can get the memes to share on Facebook. In fact, go to the Facebook page, because sharing those is a great way to spread the word and let people know about it and what it's all about. Brad Stine, wishing you guys great success this weekend. Thank you for doing the movie. Thank you for all you do to stand up for freedom in our Constitution and our way of life. We appreciate you coming on WallBuilders Live.
I'll do it anytime, buddy, and we'll continue to fight and do these Comedy Constitution tours, too, folks. Keep your eyes open for those as well.
Thanks for listening, folks. You've been listening to WallBuilders Live.
We stand undivided.